Thank you. Tonight's town board meeting is being held remotely on Zoom. It's being broadcast in Brighton on Spectrum Cable Channel 1303, live streamed on the town's YouTube channel, all in compliance with Governor Cuomo's executive order modifying provisions of the open meetings law to enable local government bodies to continue to meet remotely during the COVID emergency in a way that is open and accessible to the public. We continue to do that by starting every meeting with an open forum. We'll be doing that in a few minutes. We've got some things that will be presented first. But when the open forum begins, if you would like to address the board during that time, please go to the Town of Brighton website, select live streaming, and click the Zoom link. When you join the Zoom meeting, you'll be placed in a waiting room until you're invited into the meeting to make your comment or to ask your question. You can also call in at 303-3060. Someone will take your call and pass along your question or comment to me. We continue to make our meetings accessible to our deaf and hard of hearing community with our ASL interpreters, Allie and Heather. Thank you both. As a reminder, tonight's agenda, as well as all the materials we're looking at, not only those that are being presented here at the start of the meeting, our financial statement review and the annual report of the police department, but all the other materials that we will be using in making our decisions tonight. All of those documents are available on the town webpage, www.townofbrighton.org. I'm going to start the meeting with a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This afternoon, I had the opportunity to visit Jewish Senior Life's Summit Independent Living Community. I was invited there to their first town hall meeting that in normal times would have been held on a monthly basis with Executive Director Mike King, and also attended the ribbon cutting of a new patio and outdoor dining area at the summit. This was a project that Jewish Senior Life had begun to discuss with our town staff prior to the pandemic. But today, knowing what we now know, being outdoors in that group on this beautiful, beautiful facility that they have put in, knowing how much safer it is to be outdoors, it made all the sense in the world to be there. It felt so good to speak with dozens of the residents at the summit in their town hall, every one of them vaccinated. I think we crave those opportunities now that make life feel a little bit more normal again. The opportunity to see friends in person that we may not have seen for over a year. Pete Schwartz was there, whom we just recognized, not only the town, but Brighton Rotary for his 50+ years of service to Rotary. I will just let you know, Mike Guyon, that in his remarks, Mike King thanked the town's staff for seeing the project through despite the pandemic. He couldn't say enough appreciative words about the work that your team did in helping them get the project done, and the proof is in the pudding. It looks great. So I'll share his thanks to you and your team. Speaking of vaccines, today Monroe County is holding a pop-up vaccination site at Brighton High School. It is still going on. It will continue until 8 o'clock tonight. We continue to see the impact that vaccines have in slowing the spread of COVID, but as my experience today attests, just as importantly, vaccines are our ticket back to a more normal world, a world that feels very good. Monroe County and New York State continue to offer walk-up vaccinations at their primary locations, including the Dome in Henrietta and the Convention Center in downtown Rochester. The county is holding pop-up vaccination sites like the one today at Brighton High School throughout the Rochester area. All I can say is, again, vaccinations work, vaccinations are safe, and I strongly encourage everyone who is eligible to sign up for their vaccine or simply walk in to one of the available sites as soon as possible. Lawn and garden debris pickup continues. Maps are available on the town webpage to give you a heads up on where crews will be working over the next few days throughout the season. A reminder, if you can, please containerize your debris either in trash cans or those big brown paper bags that you can get at hardware stores or home supply stores, not in plastic. If you do have a large volume of material, of course, you can leave it in bulk, but don't pile it in the street. Please put it on the tree lawn between the sidewalk and the street, or if you don't have a sidewalk, on your front lawn close to the street. Grass clippings, of course, will not be picked up. You should please leave them on your lawn. They'll help your lawn. All right. We do have a proclamation tonight and a couple of reports that are going to be given. So let me start with that proclamation. We're a little late, but that's a function of our calendar. The week of May 16th through May 22nd was Emergency Medical Services Week. And of course, after the year and plus that we've been through, more important than ever to thank the people who are providing emergency medical services in our community. Whereas the town of Brighton is committed to the safety of its citizens and recognizes that emergency medical services are necessary public service, the value of which can never be diminished. Whereas the members of EMS teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, dramatically improving the survival and recovery rates of those who experience sudden illness or injury. Whereas the town of Brighton joins with countless other communities across the nation in support of Emergency Medical Services Week and the theme, "This is EMS caring for our communities," and acknowledging that EMS has grown to fill a public health gap by providing out-of-hospital, including preventative medicine and follow-up care in some cases. Whereas we honor the members of the Brighton Volunteer Ambulance, who, in conjunction with our police department and fire department, and even in the face of potential harm to themselves, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic, provide the highest quality EMS care to the benefit of all the people in Brighton. And of course, that includes people who live in Brighton, but it also includes people who happen to be in Brighton working or traveling through our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and on behalf of the members of our Brighton Town Council, do hereby recognize May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week and commend all of our EMS providers for their unfailing commitment to helping others and unwavering courage and professionalism during the unprecedented challenges brought by COVID-19. And this proclamation is signed today, this 26th day of May, 2021. I'll be delivering that to Brighton Volunteer Ambulance. Now I'm going to turn things over, I think, to you, Paula, who will introduce Michael. And all of us can join in the review of our financial statements for the town of Brighton. Paula?
Okay, I have included in the packet is a draft financial statements, and each of you were emailed those under separate cover along with the management letter. They are still in final draft format as we're waiting on a couple of pieces of legal information that will not impact our numbers. So I think we had a very successful audit this year, given the circumstances we had to work with. We fared okay. And I'm going to turn it over to Mike DeBatz, who we've been working with for the last couple of years, right, Mike?
Yep, last couple of years.
Last couple of years. And Mike is going to give us a presentation.
All right, I'm really just going to give you a brief overview of the financial position, the audit this year. Obviously, 2020 was a very difficult year on every front in everybody's lives, but particularly from an auditor standpoint, the uncertainty throughout the course of 2020 was certainly a unique year. I think for everybody that's been involved with the town, and from the audit standpoint, that certainly rings true. But all in all, the audit report this year, as Paula mentioned, she sent out earlier, is 75 pages this year. To sum it up for you, the main point of the audit, we issued an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements present fairly the financial position of the town, and they're properly prepared at the end of the year. Revenues in certain areas in the town were certainly down this year because certain activities didn't occur as planned due to the pandemic. Fortunately, with those activities, there was also cost savings, from a financial standpoint. Some of those things offset. And then one of the big concerns, of course, throughout the year was tax revenue, and as it impacts the town, particularly the sales tax revenue was down compared to 2019, but it wasn't down to the extent that initially we thought it could be. It ended up being down about 6.9%, which is certainly better than 20 or 30% where it could have been. So all those things in combination, and then certainly the town received some CARES funding that was passed through the county, which led to an increase in the fund balance at the end of the year in the general fund. So all in all, the town of Brighton is in a really solid financial position at the end of 2020 as we go into 2021 and look at some of those opportunities that the American Rescue Plan will present, some of those funds coming to the town. And then also, of course, the potential for some more infrastructure projects that are being talked about at the federal level. So I think bottom line is, at the end of 2020, the town of Brighton's in a very solid financial position. The books and records are in good order. Like I said, unmodified opinion, pretty clean management letter, no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. And in addition to the town financial statements, we've also looked at transactions related to the clerk's office and the court. We had no findings in those reports either. And then some of those other areas that we looked at as well. And then just to commend the town board and the finance department for the decision-making that's been made over the course of 20 going into 21, increasing the appropriated fund balance to help, reduce or, significantly help the impact on the tax levy with the fund balance that was accumulated during the 2020 year. So, from my standpoint, a lot of positive things to say about the town and the way the town operated in 2020.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. I was just going to thank you, Michael. And of course, as we sometimes discuss, the budget and the financial cycle for the year sometimes seems to flow seamlessly from one to the next, because we have already begun the development of our capital improvement plan for the 2022 budget. So
Too early to start that capital.
Oh, it's not, particularly at a time like this.
Absolutely.
Paula, is there anything else you wanted to say?
Yep, I just wanted to let everybody know, we did have a single audit done in 2019 for the funds we received for the Highland Trail crossing, or Highland Crossing Trail. Also in 2020, we've had a single audit done, and that was for the CARES Act funds, because remember, these were all federal funds, and we received funding to the level that required us to have single audits done. So I think, Mike, you wrap that up. I think we have to have that filed by September, I'm thinking, right? So we're still, we haven't seen the single audit report yet, but when we do, we'll obviously give that to the board to put on record. So we were, I think, extremely conservative in our projections. I projected sales tax at a much greater loss. And I think with reducing the programs, what we saved on programs and on staffing did really help in softening that blunt. And going into 21, we did appropriate a significantly larger amount of fund balance, which did help flatten out what we did have to raise in taxes for 21. So we'll be looking to possibly in 22 reduce that. And we're going to be looking and studying all of this stuff as we roll into our next budget cycle.
And then one other thing I want to say, and Mike and Paula, you both alluded to it, the CARES Act money that we received, we did not receive directly. Municipalities as small as Brighton did not receive any direct CARES Act funding. The funding we did get, and it was significant, came because Monroe County Executive Bello recognized the impact that the constituent communities in Monroe County were facing because of COVID, and therefore was in a position to recognize some of the fiscal impacts that we did have and pass through some of the CARES Act money that the county had received directly to us. And that was a very much the most important part, really, of the final analysis of the budget being favorable. Yes, our own fiscal conservatism and Paula's relentless observation of spending and expenses, and the review that Jason gives every week as a member of the Finance Committee. But truly, that pass-through from the county was a very big part of the fiscal stability that, when all was said and done, we continue to have going into our current year. Any questions or any comments that anyone has? Again, recognizing that these are still final drafts, and there will be a more complete and final presentation at the Finance and Administrative Services Committee, which will be meeting in person next week, next Wednesday morning, 8:30 a.m., June 2nd. But if anybody has any questions or further comments, and if not, thank you, Mike, and thank you to everybody else at your firm for the work you did on this audit, and we'll look forward to hearing more next week.
Absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity to serve the town. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you. Okay, also on tonight's agenda is the 2020 annual report of the Brighton Police Department. And you also have that in your packet, and Chief Dave Cathaldi is here to present that annual report to the committee. Chief? To the community.
Thank you. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. Well, thank you for allowing me to share this annual report with the community, the town board this evening. It will be posted on our website. It was actually posted today at 5 o'clock. And I want to thank the entire town board for the support that you've given me, because that support directly translates down to the men and women who are out there on the streets. As I discussed in our Executive Order 203 plan, this annual report is going to look a little bit different. I'm trying to capture more demographic data involving arrests, traffic tickets, and mental health transports. There is some hand searching of the records involved, and my goal is to be as accurate as possible with these numbers. I also want to thank our records division for gathering all of the data, and especially JP O'Brien for putting the final annual report together. This report continues to evolve over the years, and we're always looking for ways to improve it. The slide you've seen in other annual report that's on page 7. As you can see this bar chart, there were 11,000 fewer calls for service in 2020 as compared to 2019, which is about a 20% decrease. And you're going to see a recurring theme, obviously, calls for service, and a lot of our call volume, tickets, arrests, etc., are down. Much of that is going to be related to the pandemic. This is also on page 7. This slide represents the differentiation we make between 911 response calls versus self-initiated calls for service. As you can see, there was about a 7% reduction in self-initiated calls and 33% reduction on 911 dispatch calls for service. I would say that those are significant decreases, again, resulting from the pandemic. At the height of the pandemic, we retracted from a lot of the self-initiated calls for service that we did, not only because we didn't want to further expose the officers, but many of the businesses were closed, and those directed foot patrols and things that we normally do, we had to retract from. And I just wanted to pay a little bit of special attention to the calls for service, because sometimes there's confusion exactly what they are. Self-initiated calls are part of our community engagement initiative. It's something as simple as a foot patrol, and that's quite easily explained by when an officer puts his or her foot on the ground to engage with the public, not in an adversarial way, maybe stopping into a business, a local restaurant, just to check in and see how they're doing. It could be something as simple as parking at a site, providing a visible police presence, whether it's a synagogue, the Islamic Center, some business that may be closed. And as you know, there were a lot of businesses closed during the pandemic, and we requested routine around the clock special attentions to those businesses. Also traffic special attentions. As you know, and as you alluded to, we'll be opening up for a public safety meeting next month. And that's where we address a lot of the traffic safety concerns in neighborhoods. And what we ask our officers to do is to go out and park and spend some time in those neighborhoods, whether it's stop sign violations, speeding violations. We have them capture that data via the 911 system. So it's not necessarily a negative interaction. This is on page 9 of the report. This is a new chart that's been added to our annual report, because I thought it would be important to show the community what we're experiencing here in Brighton specifically is what we're seeing around the state and on the evening news every night. There are only 4 categories that are defined in our annual report, and they're on the right side of the screen. They're the only incident types that we experienced. The defined terms on the right side of the slide are terms used by DCJS, the Division of Criminal Justice Services, which is the controlling body for law enforcement in New York State. DCJS actually has 52 different classifications for specific groups that can be targeted by hate crimes. And as you know, a hate crime is it's a traditional offense that's motivated by bias. It could be bias against a person's perception or belief about race, color, national origin, etc. And as you know, even though we only experienced 4 hate crimes in 2020, they really garner a lot of community concern, as they should. They're very divisive in the community, and they create a lot of fear. So when we do get a hate crime, we will immediately partner with the New York State Police and their Hate Crimes Task Force. And if needed, we'll call in our federal law enforcement partners. This is on page 10 of the annual report. This is a category that we've always tracked. A burglary is something where it's either a residential burglary or a building or an outshed. But the propensity for violence during residential burglaries, when a homeowner's at home and occupying the home, it's always a concern for me in this agency. We are trending in the right direction as compared to last year. We did see, obviously, the uptick in 2019, so hopefully this trend will continue. I'd like to think that we have made significant headway in reducing burglaries by making several significant arrests over the years of serial burglars. We're still down significantly compared to where we were in the early 2000s, where we saw numbers well over 100 burglaries a year and as high as 201 burglaries in 2005. So we have made significant headway. Larcenies, this is also on page 10 of the report. This slide represents anything that's commonly referred to as shoplifting, up to and including stealing items from motor vehicles. This reflects more than a 14% increase over last year. I think it's really too early to draw any conclusions relative to the spike. Pandemic, opioid abuse are all factors that could be playing into it. And as you know, we have had incidents here in the community where a person or group of people will come into the community at night and will literally go from car to car to car that are unlocked and steal property, which is why I'm always stating in our police blotter and almost every chance I get to remove your valuables from vehicles and lock your car. This is also on page 10 of the report. As you can see, as I said earlier, there's a significant decrease in the amount of arrests we made from last year, with 265 fewer arrests in 2020, which is about a 47% decrease. Again, with society basically being closed down during the pandemic, I think that's a significant contributing factor. This is on page 12 of the annual report, and this is a new chart. As you know, Executive Order 203, I wanted to get more demographic data. And from those 299 arrests, this is the breakdown along demographic lines. As you can see, there were 58% of the arrests were demographically identified as white, and almost 39 were demographically identified as being Black. And I hope to continue identifying this in future annual reports. And just to clear up any confusion, the term Indian on the side is a defined DCJS term, and it's Native American. Again, page 10 of the report, as you can see, the recurring theme, our traffic tickets were down more than 59% where they were last year in 2019, with businesses being closed, less people on the roads. As you can see, it really impacted our traffic ticket productivity, but we will increase those numbers in 2021 with more structured traffic controls and once more and more vehicles and businesses are open. This is on page 13 of the annual report. And this is a new slide. So I need to explain this just a little bit. Collecting race for traffic tickets. So the way a traffic ticket is written here in this department, many departments across the state, you provide your driver's license to the officer. They'll scan the ticket. It will auto-populate the data from your driver's license into a traffic ticket form. The ticket could be validated at that point. And we didn't know that there's a box further down that we can make a mandatory field of demographic identification. So there were many officers who were not checking demographically identified characteristics of the motorist they were stopping. So we changed that in early 2021 when I found that out. So now officers have to check a box to identify the race of the person operating the motor vehicle. So I hope to have better data. So there's quite a bit of data on there that's not collected, and that's the either like green or gray, what you see on your screen. So in 2021, we'll have much more accurate data to report. DWI and DWAI arrest, again, a significant decrease, about a 71% decrease. And again, I sound like a broken record, but it's with businesses, bars, restaurants, and less people socializing on the roads. I think this is a major contributing factor. And one of the results from this is we'll probably in 2022, because of the low numbers, which it's not only in Brighton, it's across Monroe County, there will be fewer grant dollars available to us in 2022. So hopefully it won't be a centrifugal effect, which with less grant money, less officers will be able to dedicate to DWI enforcement. Hopefully the numbers will rebound for us after 2022. Page 10, finally, this is a positive effect from the pandemic. As you can see, there's about a 37% decrease in motor vehicle accidents as compared to 2019. With less cars on the road, there was less opportunity for motor vehicle crashes. I actually went back several years and looked, and I could not find any time where we saw so few of motor vehicle crashes with 783. But just keep in mind, even though there were fewer crashes in 2020, we did see an increase with 3 fatalities as a result of motor vehicle crashes compared to 1 fatality in 2019. On page 15, again, this is a new chart. It's 5-year trending data. And as you can see, since 2016, we've seen a steady increase in mental health transports. And as you know, and if you don't know, we proactively partner with the Forensic Intervention Team, or what's commonly known as FIT, to do community outreach. What seems to work best for us, along with FIT, is after a person has experienced their crisis, re-engaging with that person days or several weeks later to make sure that they're receiving the proper resources, they're on the proper medication plan, and basically to provide them anything that they need so they don't become chronic callers and and there's not a chronic need for police to respond to the residences. We do have 100% of our staff, and I say it often, 100% of our staff is mental health first aid trained. And it helps us better recognize people whom we interact with that have a mental health need. Our CIT training is progressing. We're about 45% of our staff are CIT trained. We have 1 slot every quarter. I've promised that we're going to get 100% of our staff CIT trained, which is a week-long certification, provides a higher level of training and recognition in how best to respond to people with mental health needs. But it's very
Crisis intervention training, for those who may not be familiar with that acronym, CIT, crisis intervention training.
Thank you. And it's very labor intensive. Community partners have to come to the training. And it's a scheduling nightmare, but it's very valuable training. We actually have another officer scheduled to go here in a couple of weeks. So eventually we'll get up to 100% of our staff. This is on page 15 of the annual report, and it's a new category. And this will be included in our annual report moving forward. And this is the 5-year trending data from the previous slide. And as you can see that 81% of the mental health transports are white compared to 17% Black and 2% Asian. This is on page 16 of our annual report. This chart is taken right from the Division of Criminal Justice Services, again, the controlling body here in New York State. And it shows 131 victims of criminal offenses. And these offenses include such crimes as assault, sex offenses, and order protection violations. And those number of victims have remained steady over the year. In 2020, we responded to 595 calls of domestic violence, which is about a 32% increase compared to 2019. From those 595 calls, we saw about a 57% increase in arrests, which equates to about 66 persons who were arrested. We do have a proactive arrest policy, but again, there are many factors why an arrest is not made, up to and including the lack of cooperation from a victim. We may request a warrant. A judge may not feel there's probable cause. So that's why there's a differentiation, and there's only 66 arrests compared to 131 victims. Obviously, in New York State, felony arrest or violations of order protections are mandatory arrest. And even if a victim doesn't want to cooperate, we are mandated by law to make that arrest. One positive thing that I think came as a result of the pandemic and the closing of the courts, and one thing that we're doing today, even to this day differently, is we have an investigator assigned to follow up with those victims of domestic violence. We proactively call them. We make sure that they're receiving the desired resources and check if there's any type of follow-up needed. Maybe they've changed their mind and desire an arrest. But we do that, and we'll continue to do that as we move forward. And on that page, we tout our partnership with Willow. And I would remind any victim of domestic violence to call Willow Domestic Violence Center at 222-SAFE. That's 222-7233. And it's a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week number. Page 21 of our annual report. This is also a new category that we're tracking, and will be in our annual report as we move forward. And it's tracking personnel complaints. Personnel complaint can be anything where a citizen calls up to complain against an officer, and there's a supervisor has to explain a policy or procedure of why we did something. That could be considered a personnel complaint. Quite frankly, rudeness of an officer can be considered a personnel complaint, or even a driving complaint from an officer. That would be considered a personnel complaint, up to and including obviously a policy violation. Personnel complaints can be generated simply by someone calling 911 to complain against an officer for some of the aforementioned items. And personnel complaints can also be internally driven. If a supervisor discovers a violation of policy or procedure, they can generate a personnel complaint. And as you can see from this, obviously we're not trending in the right direction. Our number of complaints did go up slightly in 2020 with 41 complaints compared to 34 in 2019. It's hard to identify some of the root causes. It could be, from the pandemic. It could be from national events, local events here, negative events occurring with police officers. Could be a cause for the uptick. Also, we are trying, and I've implemented, trying to capture better data relative to our personnel complaints. For example, if an individual flagged down a police officer, a supervisor, and wanted to make a complaint against an officer, a lot of times it wouldn't have the right capturing data in the 911 system. What we do, and what I've asked to be done, and it's in our policy, that supervisor would have to quantify that with a specific code to better identify that interaction and to better capture that data. Supervisors will actually reclassify a complaint. A person calls 911, simply requests, I'd like to speak to a supervisor. It may come in as a request for information, and it's a special code. I have asked, and I've done it through policy as well, that supervisor will actually reclassify that to a special code so we can capture that data. Use of force. This one, I think we are trending in the right direction. And this is a new part that you'll see in our annual report going forward. It's on page 21. And this represents a 5-year trend over your use of force data. As you can see, on average, it's about 1 a month in 2020. We did use force about 11 times. A lot of that in the numbers that we track them not only individually, but we track them in the aggregate. We use the tracking of use of force data as an early warning indicator. We'll be able to identify, and we do and can identify, each officer that uses force. It may be to correct poor performance, poor behavior, or even poor officer tactics when interacting with an arrestee. The use of force definition is provided in New York State executive law. I like to think that our definition is even more comprehensive. So we're capturing even more use of force data than what BCGS would require us. Many of our use of force could be qualified as forceful handcuffing, if you will. We have a very robust reporting system and investigation of every single use of force incident, including several layers of supervisory review, reviewing our body-worn camera footage. It's important to ensure that we capture this data to make sure that we're compliant with our policy and training, and to identify any gaps that may need attention. This slide's not necessarily in the annual report, but I show this bar graph so you can compare the number of calls for service to the number of arrests, complaints, and use of force. The bar graph on the far left column is calls for service, and it goes down to arrest, complaints, and use of force. And when you look at the number of calls for service compared to the number of complaints and the numbers of use of force, you can see from the sheer volume of interactions that we have that use of force and personnel complaints are actually a very small percentage of the number of contacts we have with the public. As you can see, we receive complaints from less than about 1% of our calls for service, and use of force on an arrestee is also a very small percent. And remember that most of our use of force rarely results in any significant injury. I'd like to think that I'd rather over-report the use of force than under-report it. Just a couple more slides. The slide, in short, says that our goals and objectives really can be boiled down to one thing, and that's implementing our 203 executive plan. As I said earlier, when I presented the plan, it's not static. I'm always looking for ways to keep our agency at the forefront of professional policing. We're incorporating this year more de-escalation strategies into our training curriculum. When it comes to diversity, I should have good news to report later on in the year when it comes to hiring. Creating a citizens interview panel. We are already well underway with doing that. And we should be incorporating that into our next phase of hiring, which, as you know, we have about 6 openings. I've already identified 2 candidates, and we'll begin the citizens interview panel very soon. Well, thanks for listening to me this evening. The full annual report will be on our website. It has much more comprehensive data that you can review. And as always, if anybody has any questions from the public, or if any of you have any questions, we can discuss it tonight, or feel free, contact me. That's my direct number and my direct email address. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. I particularly appreciate, really the very last item that you addressed there, your implementation already of one of the important recommendations in the plan, a recommendation that was derived from the UCLM report and recommendations, which all of you have heard me extol in the past as having really come from a very thorough set of recommendations that UCLM, the United Christian Leadership Ministries, put together, and that is that civilian hiring committee, which I appreciate your having already implemented. Anybody have any questions for the chief?
I do have one question. was wondering if people are interested in that citizen interview panel, how should they contact the police department? And is that going to be implemented with this round of hiring?
It is. We have already selected. I've been working with the town supervisor. We've already selected 5 people to be on the citizen interview panel. There's a member from the idea board. There's a member from the town board on it, and there are 3 other members of the community. I hope to expand it. I really want to start off. My idea of it is to start off the crawl, walk, run method. I want to make sure that we get it right. And I believe the people that we've selected, I'm not sure if it's appropriate at this time to give their names. It might be an executive session issue. I don't know. I'll leave that up to the lawyers. But we're going to implement that citizen interview panel. They are going to be part of this hiring. I did identify 2 candidates several months ago, put them through an interview here within the police department. And I don't think it'd be fair or appropriate to send those 2 candidates back through a citizen interview panel. But there are 4 hires that we need to do, and we have an interview scheduled for them. And I can follow up with you offline as well, unless you think I can put the names out
Oh,
there
thank
tonight.
you.
I'll leave that up to the
Thank you so
supervisor.
much, Chief. I can follow up with you offline.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Chief.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Then we will continue. I will now, the open forum is available. Again, as I discussed earlier, you can either go to the town's live stream, click on the Zoom link, and ask to be included into the meeting, and you will be able to do that. Or you can call 303-3060, and you'll have an opportunity to give your question or comment to the person who answers the phone, who will share it with me. We'll give people a minute if they do have any input they want to give to the open forum, but we will continue with the agenda while we see. And
Bill, I move that we
Chris,
approve the agenda.
thank you. Can I have a second?
Second, Christine.
Any comment? Again, I would note, depending on what version of the agenda you're looking at, what had been the last item, an agreement with Stratum Health, is no longer going to be on tonight's agenda. And with that, we have a motion and a second. Dan, please call the roll.
14 months and I'm still muted. Councilmember DeBonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. We do have one public hearing tonight related to the formation, the establishment of extension 106 to the Consolidated Sanitary Sewer District. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, the notice was in the May 13th edition of the Post.
Thank you. I declare then this public hearing to be open, and I'll ask our man of many hats, including Sewer Commissioner Mike Guyon, if you would please just briefly describe the subject of this public hearing.
Thank you, Supervisor. We received a petition from 4 properties at the south end of Midland Avenue. Real quick, Midland Avenue is located off of Highland Avenue. It's the first road west of the South Clinton Highland Avenue intersection. As Supervisor said, this would be extension 106 to the Brighton Consolidated Sewer District. The extension of the district is necessary to allow these folks to connect to the public sewer. As mentioned, the district will include 4 properties. All the properties are owned by Jim and Karen Coffey. 3 of the parcels are vacant, with the 4th parcel being the location of their residence in their home. We received petitions representing 100% of the parcels in the district. The proposed improvements as part of the district, the improvements will be paid for and installed by the property owners. They include a low pressure pump station and a force main. The pump station will convey their wastewater via the force main to the existing sewer that's located along Willard Avenue. That sewer was installed as part of the Pinnacle Hill subdivision. In addition, when we did the subdivision review of Pinnacle Hill, we obtained easements that would allow this connection. So there are easements that allow this sewer to be extended and connect to the sewer along Willard Avenue. The portion of the force main, so the force main will extend from the Coffey's property across Midland Avenue right away and through the easement and then connect into the existing sewer. The portion of the sanitary sewer force main located within the Midland right away and within the easements will be dedicated back to the town of Brighton and become a public sewer. The reason we've asked that particular instance is this will allow the other properties along Midland Avenue to connect into that sewer in the future if they choose to do that. Otherwise, they would have to have a separate force main to run the whole length. So this will create a force main that everybody can use to provide sanitary sewer service to their properties. We did do an environmental review of the project and a negative declaration was issued. The owners would certainly like the town board to look favorably upon their request. I can answer any questions you'd like.
Well, again, I would note for the purposes of public comment that, again, people can either click the Zoom link on the town's live stream page, the YouTube live stream page, and they will be admitted into the waiting room, or they can call 303-3060. But if there are any questions from the board, as Mike said, he's happy to answer them.
Yes, I have one question, Mike, and this is not about this specific extension, but in general, because this is, I think, the second extension of the Consolidated Sanitary Sewer District that's come before us this year. How many properties are not a part of our sewer system?
I don't have an exact number for you, Christine, but basically the whole west side of the town is unsewered. So anything, you got the Bastion area, that whole area there, Bastion, Hellendale, Norman, that is unsewered. Bronx, Riverside, all that area over there, Delaware, that's all unsewered. Crittenden. There's a small portion, there's one home on Crittenden that has a pump station that is sewered. There's very few parcels within the town itself. Summit, I'm trying to think. Summit, we have sewers up Summit, but there's very few within the outside of the west side of town that aren't sewered. But there are areas.
All right.
It's hard to get. I can give you an exact number of parcels. I can look it up on the GIS and get you something.
No, I was curious, and your description helps make clearer just the state of the infrastructure in town, and a better understanding of where we might see more of these extensions proposed. So thank you.
We have not received any phone calls or any input directly. If there are no other questions, I declare this public hearing to be closed. Can I have a motion on this matter? You have it in your packet, Chris.
Bill, I move that we establish extension 106 to the Consolidated Sanitary Sewer District in accordance with the resolution before us.
Can I have a second?
Second, Robin.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the matter? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. We have a couple of items of communication, but I want to add a third one here, because I just got it and didn't have it in time. So if you'll indulge me, I want to read this one. and it was sent to me. Good afternoon, Supervisor Maley. I wanted to acknowledge Mr. Jose Caraballo, who has been instrumental in assisting me with concerns I've had regarding events taking place in my neighborhood. When I initially spoke to Mr. Caraballo, he offered guidance, leadership, and support. He has maintained those same standards in my continued dealings with him. Mr. Caraballo even went a step further and put me in contact with other team members within the Brighton department who have since reached out to me with positive feedback and follow-up. I appreciate the time Mr. Caraballo takes out of his busy schedule to return a call, answer a question, or even ask if there's anything else he can assist me with. When I shared that I rarely see the police in my neighborhood unless there is an issue, I was highly impressed when 2 officers showed up at my house to introduce themselves. I still smile thinking of that interaction. Please thank Mr. Caraballo on my behalf for a job well done. Sincerely, Wendy Gonzalez. And so I would ask that that be included and that I have a motion to receive and file the 2 items of correspondence in your packet along with this one.
So moved.
Second, Chris.
Thank you. And the 2 that we have already, unfortunately, Sue Ost, who many of us know, worked for many years in the clerk's office and even more years in the police office, police department, 20 years of service to the town, will be retiring. And also correspondence from Jennifer Cesario, the controller of Monroe County. We talked about sales taxes earlier. This is the report from the first quarter sales taxes. And the good news, well, the bad news is, not surprisingly, January and February weren't very good. But once we got to March and we were up against a month where the pandemic began last year, our sales tax revenues rose dramatically. And as a result, for the first quarter of 2021, our sales taxes are up. We have since seen an even more dramatic increase for April, boding very, very well for sales tax revenue for the rest of the year. Paula, anything you want to add to that?
We did anticipate some decline in our budget for 2021. So the first quarter being down by 10,000 is well within our projected downtrend, I guess. So we are still sitting in really good shape for 21.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to receive and file those items. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Committee reports, starting with Community Services. Robin.
Thanks so much, Bill. The Community Services Committee was scheduled to meet on May 19th, but due to the restrictions resulting from the pandemic, that meeting was canceled. I do, as usual, have some updates from our Parks and Recreation Department heads. From our Recreation Department, summer program registration is in full swing for all programs. Spaces are filled on a first come, first served basis. So if you do need camp this summer, please don't delay. Check out our website, your email, and the Recreation Department Facebook page to stay up to date with all of our latest happenings. We just love to have you join us for our activities this summer. We are hiring for our summer camp. It's still in progress. We have a last minute opening for a qualified camp director. For more info, please visit the town website or contact the Recreation Department directly at 585-784-5260 extension 0. Our town supervisor, William W. Maley and members of the Brighton Town Board cordially invite you to attend the Town of Brighton's annual Memorial Day ceremony. The ceremony will take place on Monday, May 31st at 2 p.m. at the Brighton Veterans Memorial, which is at 1341 West Fall Road. We will be adhering to all state and local guidance for masking and social distancing as required. We ask that you please park in the main parking lot and walk to the memorial if you are able. Accessible parking will be available at the Buckland Farmhouse. Also, we want to remind everyone that the Brighton Farmers Market summer session is in progress. The season began on May 9th and will extend through November 21st. It is on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in the Brighton High School parking lot. We do continue to prioritize health and safety for our vendors and our customers. Masks are required if unvaccinated, voluntary, but encouraged for everyone, regardless of vax status. We want to remind you also, if you do need something from our recreation department, if you have a question, if you're looking for lodge availability, or need something else that we haven't thought of, just do give us a call at 585-784-5260, and we'd be happy to assist you. Again, you can find us on our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Brighton Recreation, or on our website, which is www.townofbrighton.org/rec. Some of our upcoming programs include dog training, theater, basketball, volleyball, science, tennis, rock climbing, Brighton Up yoga, horseback riding, and so much more. Now, an update from our Parks Department. Our Parks Department are busy managing facilities and fields for spring operation. Seasonal laborers have started shifts this week. Field supplies are being inventoried, ordered, and delivered. Mowing and refuse contracts are set for season. Our lodges have officially been reopened with limited capacity, and staff will be monitoring groups closely for compliance. Of course, unfortunately, in the past, groups have blatantly ignored our occupancy rates. However, so far, I'm proud to report that all May reservations have been in compliance. So we're hoping to keep that trend going. At all of our facilities, annual alarm and fire inspections and inventory of equipment and supplies have been completed, and replacement of outdoor grills have occurred. Discussions of our July 4th celebration are ongoing, and a decision has been made to move forward with a scaled down event, which will feature our 5K race, the Sky Coasters, and fireworks. There will be no kids' activities, food trucks or vendors, nor secondary music stage. Athletic field requests are at an all-time high, and we're working hard to accommodate those requests. All youth sports groups are still being held to New York State COVID-19 athletic restrictions, as New York State has not altered these guidelines. Parks and trails continue to be heavily utilized as recreational options. The Parks Department staff has installed additional signage at Lynch Woods to curb hunting and ATV use. Work has begun on the new Auburn Trail, and if you've witnessed it, it's absolutely gorgeous. And this is part of the Whole Foods project. The trail, when completed, will be maintained by the Parks Department. In Sandra Frankel Nature Park, the string of trees identified along the Avalon Road property line that could have potentially posed a safety hazard have been removed. Park staff are busy with inventory, preventative equipment maintenance, along with various other projects, and have identified ongoing maintenance for the season. We're also preparing for the seasonal uptick in our park facilities. upcoming events, or actually past events. I wanted to give an update on our Brighton semi-annual electronics recycling and secure document shredding event that occurred on Sunday, May 16th. I want to thank all of the members of the town board who were so kind as to assist in the collection of items. I do have details of the document shredding portion of the event, but I'm still awaiting updates from the electronics recycling portion. We saw well over 400 vehicles at the event. Of course, this was the first conducted on a Sunday, so we were very pleased by the turnout. The amount of paper processed was 13,200 pounds collected, which is equal to 6.6 tons. And with that collection, 112 trees were saved, 46,200 gallons of water were saved, 20,060 kilowatts of energy were saved, 396 pounds of pollutants were kept out of our atmosphere, 33 cubic tons of landfill yards were saved, and that was at a total financial value of $34,002.70. So thank you for everybody who participated. This really does make make a substantial impact in our sustainability efforts. Our next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, June 16th, 2021, and we will be meeting in person at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center multipurpose room. As always, members of the public are invited to attend. We will be masking and adhering to limited occupancy standards. So if you do have an interest in attending, we do ask that you contact our recreation department at 55784-5260 extension 0 to let us know that you'll be joining us so that we can safely accommodate everyone. Thanks so much. That's all I have.
Thanks, Robin. And great event. The recycling, the shredding and electronics recycling, it went so well. As Robin mentioned, masking for all of our committee meetings will be required. We will be requiring that all people attending our committee meetings wear masks. Next, we will go to the Finance Committee. Jason.
Yes, Bill, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee did not meet, but that's the last time that I'll hopefully have to say that. In the interim, we did receive an action items list together with supporting correspondence from the Finance Department, from Paul Parker, our Finance Director. Had the opportunity to ask any questions we might have had. Our next meeting, and as you mentioned earlier, Bill, will take place on Wednesday, June 2nd, live and in person in the Town Hall Auditorium. We will meet at 8:30 in the morning. And not only do we start meeting back in person, but we start with summer hours. So we'll be meeting on Wednesday mornings at 8:30 from now until Labor Day. And again, we'll be in the auditorium. And at that meeting, we'll have the deep dive presented on the audit report from our auditors. We had the brief presentation this evening, but we'll really get down into the nitty-gritty and into the details at our next meeting. The public is invited to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Public Safety, Christine.
Well, public safety, I feel like the report has been delivered in spades today. Thank you, Chief, for your detailed annual report and for the clear evidence that the work never stops at ensuring that the Brighton Police Department is serving the community at the highest levels. The Public Safety Committee did not meet since the last town board meeting. The next one is scheduled for Tuesday, June 8th. Yes, Tuesday, June 8th. I can't believe we're talking about June already. In person, 8 a.m. in the Town Hall Auditorium. Any matters of public safety may be brought to my attention or to the attention of any member of the committee for inclusion on the agenda. We do ask that you submit your matters in advance, ideally, and ideally by the Thursday preceding the scheduled meeting. However, if things come up, you are still permitted to attend, again, following the guidelines about contacting town hall, and then following safe COVID practices when you are in the town hall facilities. More information and contact information can be found online at townofbrighton.org/public safety committee. And I do want to note, we already have one community member who has brought concerns about traffic calming in their neighborhood to the attention of the committee, and they will be attending, likely with the small children who are at risk when traffic is not safe and prudent in the neighborhood. So young people are also welcome at these committee meetings, particularly when the matters are of concern to their safety and well-being. And that is all.
Thank you, Christine. And finally, Chris, Public Works. But you're muted.
It's only 14 months now. Okay. Public Works has not met in person, but we look forward to that first in-person meeting in over a year on June the 1st at 9:30. Commissioner Guyan has given me a report, however. The DPW, along with the police department, continue to work with the Monroe County staff to provide rapid COVID testing by appointment only at Temple Birth Codish. The testing takes place on Tuesdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Please go to the county website at monroecounty.gov to make an appointment. And those appointments can be made starting on the Friday prior to the testing week. The Highway Department has completed its chip seal program, and 18 streets have received a chip seal surface treatment. The town website includes a map showing the 2021 road maintenance program. Roman Construction has completed removing and replacing damaged sidewalks throughout the town. The Department Authority of the State of New York has endorsed the grant to retrofit our Cobra Head streetlights with LED fixtures, and we've contacted our lighting contractor and are developing a work schedule. The town has submitted a pre-application for the Bridge New York program funding to complete preventative maintenance of the French Road Bridge. We received minor comments on the application on May 21st last week, and we will address these comments and submit the final application on June the 9th. We've also tentatively developed a schedule to bid the library roof project and anticipate that bid documents for the roof will be available on June 10th, 2021, and the bids to be received by July 9. We also anticipate the construction of the French Road sidewalk will begin in June. As I've indicated, our in-person meeting will be June 1st at 9 o'clock in the morning at Town Hall. Hope to see you there.
Thank you, Chris. I just want to mention, I've spoken with residents in at least one neighborhood or one street that had chip sealing done. And yes, our contractor has, we've completed that work, but that doesn't mean that we've completed it. The materials are down on the street. Let me back up and clarify, because I was not being very clear there. The materials are down, but our crews will be back. They will continue to sweep up any excess gravel that often is there after chip sealing is completed, if necessary, even roll some of those areas. So while we've gotten to all the streets and laid down the materials, there will be some ongoing work over the next little while, so that, as always, we make sure that the treatment sets, hardens well, and becomes the great pavement surface that we know chip sealing can be. Okay, that completes our committee reports. By the way, we have not heard from anybody relating to wanting to speak during the open forum, so we will move on to new business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, Bill, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $734,529.36. Notable claims include to Dell Marketing, in the amount of $11,200.50 for the purchase of 19 library computers per the 2021 through 2023 capital improvement plan. Also to Depository Trust Company in the amount of $228,783.20, representing payments of 3 bonds for principal and interest for 2016, and for 2017, which was interest only, and for 2020, which was principal and interest. The projects that were incorporated in those 3 bond issuances included the HVAC system in the public safety wing and various equipment, the Susquehanna and Northumberland Drainage District and Blossom Road sanitary sewer improvements, and also the Duffield Road resurfacing and also various equipment purchases. Also to Monroe County Library System in the amount of $28,700, representing January through June 2021 MCLS cost share and 2021 NYLA, which is the New York Library Association membership dues. Membership dues were only $420 of that amount. Also to Plant Concepts, in the amount of $6,120, representing April 2021 mowing services and purchase of garden mulch per board approved contract. And finally, to Rochester Asphalt Materials, in the amount of $4,831.67, representing payment for road materials for chip seal and asphalt materials. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second, Robin.
Thank you. Any discussion on any of those claims? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Robin, if you would do the next one, please.
Certainly. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with SWBR for a community needs assessment and feasibility study in an amount not to exceed $85,000 and authorize any necessary budget amendment to fund said agreement. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second. Chris.
We have several staff people that have been involved in that process. Maybe I'll start with Mike and then see if Becky wants to add anything.
Yeah, I'm probably going to defer a little bit to Becky, supervisor, but we interviewed 2 firms for the proposal. We had a bunch of excellent proposals, but we interviewed 2 firms, and SWBR certainly stood out. Becky, I'll let you take it from there.
Thanks, Mike. As Mike shared, we received 7 total proposals came in. 48 downloads happened off of the website where it was posted. So we had a really great response after going through all of the proposals that came in. The 2 that we interviewed and ultimately called in virtually to go through the proposals in more detail. SWBR really rose to the top of that pile, providing a well-rounded team of experts that they've put together to really meet the needs that were outlined in the RFP. And so we feel very good about bringing that forward to the board and to the community to really get the input of the community of what they want to see happen for recreation and parks and the seniors in the community, rather than us unilaterally making any decisions about space, what we think would be best. We really value that input and will be doing extensive work to really flesh that out and get in community engagement on that decision, the decisions that will need to be made and give us some guidance on steps to move forward for the recreation department and really just in the town in general moving forward.
Thanks, Becky. It's going to be as Becky said, it is going to be an expansive project to just gather this information from the community and evaluate various alternatives, but looking towards the potential and identifying how we can best house our recreation and community activities. And that's very, very important as we go forward. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or any questions about this matter?
Bill, I just wanted to contribute a couple comments if I could. First, I want to share with the board members that we got a very good quote for professional fees from SWBR, which they then further reduced and adjusted at our request. And it's a very, very competitive, reasonable fee that they're looking for. And that we are hoping to have the entire process and community engagement and getting a feel for what the community wants and needs is a major component of this, but there are also some engineering challenges that are going to be tackled, and looking at the facilities that exist in town and potential private-public partnerships. We're hoping to have a final report ready to bring back to you sometime near the end of this calendar year.
Thanks, Ken. Further questions or comments? Hearing none, then Dan, please call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Robin.
Thanks, Bill. The next matter seeks to amend the part-time seasonal wage schedule to add the title of Supervising Lifeguard 1, effective Nunc-Pro-Tunc on May 24th, 2021. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second, Jason.
Very excited that our pool will be opening this year, and this is part of that. Becky?
Thank you, Supervisor. We're excited too. There's a lot of work ahead of us to get to that point, but hopefully with the addition of this title to our part-time seasonal wage schedule, it will allow us to really put the building blocks in place to have a successful season, and really adds additional responsibilities to, those lifeguards that might be identified as having greater experience in administrative duties, as well as experience at the pool itself. So we really value that and really needed to identify an additional title for that role to really set us up for success in the pool and out back, hopefully there at the town hall. So we're excited to have that in place, and we have some great people on board to make that happen.
Thanks, Becky. Questions or comments? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
I have one quick question.
Oh, sorry.
Will we have the Splash into Summer celebration this year?
Well, nothing is set in stone, Christine. It is a year of question marks, and I make no promises until we can get the cover off that pool and see what's underneath there. So
All right, we'll
there's
keep our
a
fingers
few
crossed.
things, but as with everything, nothing's ever set in stone. So we can add things on the fly if need be. So at this point, not yet, but maybe.
Well,
And obviously COVID guidance will affect
of course.
the decision for that, because while we are going to be opening the pool, it is going to look, we anticipate right now, a little different than it has in the past. I'm not sure all of the details, again, are set in concrete, so it's probably a little premature to ask Becky to go through them all. But we are going to do some things differently to ensure safety.
I will just say we have to. The guidance from the health department has not been updated from last year, so it will not look anything like what it typically does, because these are not typical times. So everyone please know, we're following the guidance to the letter of the law, and we'll open under those parameters, but it will not be the same setup as it normally is. So even opening on any level and any amount we're hopeful for that, but it's definitely going to be much smaller scaled, and that's all due to the COVID guidelines that are in place right now.
Your flexibility and creativity are remarkable. So thank goodness we're getting the pool back this summer. Good work.
Thank you.
Anything further? Hearing none, then Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Christine, the next matter, please.
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Cycle Hop LLC, DBA Hopper, HOPR, at no cost to the town for a micro mobility program. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second, Robin.
Christine or Ken, do you want to, either one of you, talk more about this program?
I'll start and Ken can fill in the details if that's all right with you, Ken. Ken did a lot of heavy lifting on this, as did Bill. The Hopper program is the latest iteration in the region of bike share. The community may remember Pace bikes and then Zagster bikes that were parked primarily and used primarily within the city of Rochester. Those two programs have gone by the wayside, but RGRTA, RTS, and the city of Rochester initiated a new program with a new bike share provider, Hopper. And this time the program was intended to be more far-reaching, recognizing that people want to hop on a bike and cross those invisible lines from one place to another. So Brighton is one of several communities that also joined in the process of identifying good locations in town to establish bike stations. In the town of Brighton, there will be stations at Town Hall, and that will be our very own bike station on Brighton property. And then in agreement with other property owners, there will be 4 more stations, one at 12 Corners, one at Tops Plaza, one in the Rustic Village Apartments complex, and one on the Erie Canal path adjacent to the Meridian Center Park. So if you think about where all of those are located, we now have expanded mobility on 2 wheels throughout the community. Whether you own a bike or not, you will be able to rent a bike, borrow a bike, share a bike for a nominal fee. I believe it's a couple bucks to ride for a couple hours, or you can get a month-long pass to ride unlimited. So we wended our way through the process of finding good spots in town, and Ken hammered out a very thoughtful agreement with Hopper and RTS, and we shall soon see bike stations around town, not just bike share bikes, but I think e-bikes as well may be showing up on those stands. So e-bikes give an extra boost to your pedal power as you get around. And the last exciting point about these, and any bike that you do own yourself, bikes can be loaded up on the front end of an RTS bus. So you can really extend your range on 2 wheels or 4 wheels, all on the transit system that covers our region. But Brighton is one of the leaders in the Monroe County area that will be served by Hopper bikes. What else do we need to know, Ken?
Well, I just want to pick up on that last point you made. To my knowledge, we will be the first town to enter into an agreement with Hopper. So the city of Rochester, you're right, has already entered into an agreement. Perhaps the village of Brockport has signed their agreement. I'm not quite sure on the status. And Hopper is in discussions with other towns around us, Pittsford, Irondequoit, some other towns, but Brighton will be the first. And we're very excited about that. I will also say, just in case others have heard about this program in the city of Rochester, the city of Rochester, in addition to conventional bikes and e-bikes, is also allowing scooters. We are not ready for scooters in Brighton. There are some restrictions and laws that we're concerned about in the use of scooters. So we're going to see how the scooter experiment goes in the city of Rochester, but you will not be able to bring those scooters into the town of Brighton. If they're brought into the town of Brighton, Hopper will be responsible for making sure they go back into the city of Rochester for now. And we'll reevaluate that in the future to see how the program's going. But certainly the bicycles, the pedal bikes and the e-bikes will be out there on those racks or stations, as they call them. And Hopper will be maintaining those bikes and is committed to do so. One of the things that we were very interested in is making sure that Hopper stood behind its commitment to repair and maintain those bikes in safe working order for our residents. And we very much are looking forward to the start of this program. And Hopper will be inviting the town leaders to a kickoff event, which should be coming up very soon.
Thank you both for the time and effort that you've put into this. I'm as excited as both of you are. You know, these bike share programs, you know, they're a gateway. A lot of people who rode bikes when they were 12 years old haven't been on a bike in years. And you know what they say, it's, you know, it's like riding a bike. But some people don't have bikes. Maybe it is because they haven't ridden one in years and never saw the reason to get one. In some cases, there are financial challenges for people. But this is an opportunity for people to get back on a bike, to get back on the horse again, as they say. Try it. See how much fun it is to ride a bike on our trails, or maybe down Monroe Avenue to do some shopping. We've got the location right there on, you know, right on Elmwood at the 12 Corners. So there's so many opportunities that people will have to use a bike, and maybe they'll get hooked. So again, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
So I have a question for, I don't know if Ken or Christine who's best to answer it, but one problem I know have existed in other cities with bikes and scooters and stuff is these things just getting abandoned in random places. Is there some kind of level of service that they've agreed to retrieve the bikes that get abandoned in the middle of the sidewalk outside 12 Corners Plaza or anywhere else? Or, and then part two is as far as like replenishing stations when they're, you know, when people ride from away from the canal path, I mean, they may come back where they've parked there, but in other spots, you know, they may pick up a town hall right off to wherever they're going and they don't necessarily bring it back. So I guess that was my other, like, couple level of service type questions.
Yeah, those provisions are in the contract. All the bikes that Hopper will be placing in service will be GPS tracked by Hopper, and they will know when a bike is left abandoned on a sidewalk or when a station is empty of bikes, and we'll be able to pick those bikes up. They'll have that responsibility and put them back where they belong or redistribute them to make sure there is an adequate supply at each station. That doesn't guarantee that every time you go to a station, there will be a bike there. There is a limited number of bikes that are going to be deployed initially. I want to say that their goal initially is to deploy about 30 bicycles in the town of Brighton. So it's not a great number, but it is the way they're going to start. And again, we're going to see how things go. One of the other provisions that we put into the contract is if things don't go the way that we want them to go, then we'll have the right to simply cancel the agreement and look in a different direction. But hopefully, Hopper will get these bikes distributed, keep them in good repair, redistribute them as needed, and people will enjoy using them when they want to use them. We're hoping that they're well used and well enjoyed.
And I think that was the Phineas and Ferb clause, the 110 days of summer vacation that you have to figure out how to use best. Anybody hearing that theme song? But it does give us the summer, basically the peak riding season, to figure out how best to make the use of the network of bikes and how to hold Hopper accountable to ensuring they are they're keeping up their end of the bike distribution and collection bargain.
So how quickly are they committing to retrieving abandoned bikes not at stations?
They say within 24 hours.
The GPS element in that makes it much easier for them to collect them up. I think that wasn't a feature in past services, which led to the challenge of finding where the bikes ended up, the ghost bikes.
Any other questions?
I have one question, just clarifying point. Given the GPS trackability, will people using the application be able to see how many bikes are available at any given station?
Yes, that's one of the features, both on the app and on the website. They're able to predict where they're going to find their best availability of bikes.
Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mail.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, we have the April 2021 expense and revenue report.
Jumped ahead of one.
No, that one's off.
Not on my word. Apologies.
That's all right. So in any event, the April expense and revenue report, can I have a motion to receive and file, please?
So moved.
So, second, Robin.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye, and of course, we'll have a report from the finance director after the second quarter is over. I have nothing further. Matters of the town attorney.
I have nothing for the public session. I do have one matter involving the Whole Foods litigation that is pending that I need to discuss with the board in executive session following the public session.
Sounds good. Thank you. And Dan, matters of the clerk.
Just as a one last reminder, if anyone who's still working to pay towards the town and county bill, we end collection at the end of May. So make sure if you get anything payments in here postmarked, I guess no later than Saturday, because there won't be postmarks available Sunday or Monday. So thanks.
Thank you. Good reminder. Matters of the town board.
Yes.
Christine.
I have just a brief update on the reimagined RTS. We're 9 days into the revised route system and service expansion or modification or whatever we want to call it. The the faster, more frequent routes are certainly much more visible going through Brighton. Residents may have noted the number 11 on the former 47 is now the 11. Do the math. On Monroe Avenue, there are short lines and long lines. That is much more frequent and more reliable, reports are from the general public. The RTS did take into account citizen rider concerns about accessing the University of Rochester Medical Center in time to start shifts. So the 97 Elmwood commuter, formerly the 48, they added one more run in the mornings to get people to work. They have not necessarily adjusted yet for the afternoons to align with shifts there, but RTS is beginning to modify routes and service to meet the needs of the community. Keep sharing those comments with RTS. They are paying attention on social media and at their customer service line. The number, which I should have at my fingertips and I do not, I apologize. We are still underserved in Brighton 9 days in, but the fact that they are modifying as they go gives me some hope that our efforts to get them to further expand and truly support the sustainable, equitable service that we deserve in this community will be heard. If you do ride the bus and are baffled by the system right now, I recommend that you do visit the website, and that is reimagine.myrts.com. There are also links there for you to provide feedback. And I would also be very interested in hearing rider thoughts or concerns and potential riders' thoughts and concerns about the system. One of the forums you can do that in is on Facebook. The Brighton Safe Streets for All group is one way. The other is just be in touch with me directly at my town email address, christine.corrado@townofbrighton.org. So slowly, steadily, the wheels keep turning, right?
Christine,
Bills
if
on
I
the
could-
bus go round and round.
Christine, if I could just share one story that I was privy to from a family friend who lives just off of Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road and works in the town of Brighton. Posted in frustration on her Facebook page a few days ago how frustrating it was because she tried calling for an on-demand ride to get to work. This is a person who does not own a car, and 5 times called and was told each time that there was nothing available.
Yeah, and the on-demand service has been very bumpy in its rollout. Unfortunately, your family friend is not alone in that, and it is impacting those with physical mobility issues who count on transit for assistance. It's impacting the elderly. There have been instances of elderly riders who were counting on the on-demand service to get them to healthcare appointments that evaporated. So that's only 9 days in. It can't get worse, and we can hope it gets better. If you want to put your family friend in touch with me, I will add that to the compilation of concerns that we're hearing in Brighton. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. I really appreciate your leadership in these matters. Transit in Rochester, yes, it needs to be reimagined, but a little more imagination needs to go into it, a little more service needs to go into it, and really some more consideration of issues of equity, which I believe have been, in some cases, left in the dust. This is not just a parochial Brighton issue. when a line that goes down University Avenue and down Winton Road and through the 12 corners where there are so many opportunities for employment, past the Brighton Memorial Library where there's free internet access, and then to the largest employer in Monroe County, the fact that that line got kneecapped, cut off, so that it now only runs 3 times a day at rush hour from the 12 corners down to the medical center is not just a loss of service for Brighton, it is a loss of service for the community, one that affects the ability of people to get to jobs, to continue to bolster the economy of the region. We've got to do better. And I think now that the service changes have gone into effect, it's a little easier to get people's attention. I know you and I both struggled to, to get people to hear the message that transit service was changing and not for the better in Brighton. And I hope that with the input we get, with your persistence, and in no small part, I hope, due to what will be some very significant ARPA, the American Rescue Plan funds that will be going to RTS, they will be in a position to restore some of that service to Brighton, where not only has service been cut, but we don't have access to on-demand pods originating here.
Hopper bikes are not going to fill that gap.
No, they aren't. That's
They're a
right.
wonderful addition, but they are not a substitute for on-demand service and
right.
the fixed routes that are needed.
So thank you for being that voice, and I appreciate it. Okay, any other matters of the board? Hearing none, then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters of litigation relating to the Whole Foods Plaza project?
So moved.
Second,
Dan, please call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember DePonzio,
Aye.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
aye.
Supervisor Malley.
Aye. Our next board meeting will be June 9th at 7 p.m. It will again be remote. I do want to remind everybody that our committee meetings starting next month and starting on the 1st with the Public Works Committee will again be in person. And I'm cautiously optimistic that it won't be too long before our town board meetings are also in person. But for tonight, I don't anticipate coming back into open session. And for the meeting on June 9th, that will be held remotely. Thanks everybody for following along. Have a good evening.